Hello, BookTube. Well, as you can see, I have a guest. It's the crossover the networks didn't want to happen.
Yeah. Nobody in their right mind would want this to happen.
No. At long last, for those of you who've been asking for years, at long last, Michael K. Vaughan has come to Hyde Cottage to visit the Bean, who's a little bit sleepy. I guess it's a little bit later than usual.
Yeah, and Steve's here too.
And it's wonderful. Wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
Naturally, we should talk about Conan.
Naturally.
Yes, since your event is coming to an end, Sumerian September.
Tragically, it's coming to an end. It couldn't last forever.
One of the little side subjects that came up was Conan not in books and not in comics.
Mm-hmm. Conan has existed in other things.
You brought up, with a shudder, he brought up the cartoon, the Saturday morning cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
But we also brought up the live action show.
Yeah, now I'm wishing I remembered to look up that guy's name.
Yeah, we were going to look up the actor's name. The main actor's name, Wolf something or other.
I'm just totally blanking out on his name, unfortunately.
Did you watch that show?
I didn't see every episode. I probably only saw like 3 episodes, which was excessive. Watching that much of that show is excessive.
The show's kind of painful.
It's not so great.
Wasn't there a mute? Wasn't one of his merry band someone who didn't speak?
And he's got there was like a little guy, and it was not Conan. Let's just put it that way.
No. Can you imagine a cable Conan? Oh, can you imagine?
I mean,
can you imagine what it would actually be like? People, modern audiences look at John Wick and they think this is as pure as this kind of character gets because they don't have any idea. They don't have any idea.
If it were done right, it would be magnificent.
Oh, imagine the sets. Get Javier Bardem to play Conan. It should be amazing. Your Conan should not, no offense to Jay Momoa, but your Conan should not be a dreamboat. Should be a tiny bit older, more seasoned.
Although, of the people who have played Conan, Momoa is probably the best.
How much better would he be today, though? He's like 100 pounds more of muscle today.
Yeah.
He's more seasoned and older. Actually, that's a question I could ask you. I'm a fan of the older seasoned Conan. Do you like the younger one, the Buccaneer?
Oh yeah.
You like him? Do you like him better than the older Conan?
I wouldn't say I like him better. I mean, still for me, my favorite Conan story is still the Hour of the Dragon, which is Conan as a king. But I do love that the stories when Conan was a younger man. I love all Conan, really.
Oftentimes, Conan fans that I've known don't prefer the older King Conan because that's when they start to like Kull. They like Kull in that setting. They don't want Conan to be wearing a crown. Even though that's where the world met him. The world met him wearing a crown. They still want him to be footloose.
Well, so did Conan, which was kind of the thing about those stories, is that Conan is now a king and now he has all these responsibilities, right?
Can you imagine Conan at the conclusion of the movie Footloose? Where he just beheads everybody instead of dancing?
It would have been a better movie.
It would have been a better movie, yes. All those punks in the parking lot.
He would have just taken them out. It would have been a half-hour movie if Conan was in it.
And the dance montage in the middle where the kid tries to teach his oafish friend how to dance. Conan would just have killed him.
Yeah, wouldn't have taken long at all.
So you like the Jay Momoa movie? I didn't know that.
Well, here's the thing. That was not a great movie. The Jason Momoa movie was not great. But Momoa was a really good Conan. And one thing I appreciated about that movie is that they were kind of trying to do a more Robert E. Howard version, and they did mention specific Robert E. Howard stories in that movie. And I did appreciate that. And I liked Momoa as Conan. I think he was a much better Conan than Schwarzenegger because he was playing Conan.
Yeah.
And this is nothing against Schwarzenegger because, he's awesome. But in this case, I think Momoa was a better Conan. He just wasn't in a good enough Conan movie.
So why do you think? I mean, I've got you here. I finally get to ask this question. Why do you think Conan's mojo has gone? I mean, Marvel Comics had the comic franchise. They got rid of it. A book came out by S.M. Sterling. Nobody cared about it. There's no movie. There are no cable. Why? People fighting left and right for Conan, for cable rights, all kinds of things, but not Conan.
I'm not sure Conan's mojo has really gone. This is a tough time for Conan to exist in.
Oh.
For one thing.
Oh, right.
And
I hadn't thought of that, but that's true.
Yeah, it's a tough time for Conan to exist in as Conan.
Without becoming Conan the Correct.
Right, without becoming Conan the Correct. It's a tough time to be Conan.
But surely cable shows get around that.
You would think, but the people who make those cable shows are afraid. Right? They're afraid of the reaction they'll get to making a real Conan story. And there are people who are making those shows, perhaps, who would have to be producing it, who would be like, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. You know? But among people, real people who actually exist in the real world, a lot of those people really like Conan, and they would love to see that. They would love to see the real Conan. It's just, at this particular point in time, I'm not even sure I would want a Conan show to be produced right now, because I don't know what it would turn out to be.
Yeah, right? You'd want some assurance that it's going to be the real Conan. Wouldn't it be incredible, though? Can you imagine? What if somebody did a cable show of Conan's first 4 years of life, 4 years as an adult, with his father, the blacksmith, being played by Schwarzenegger, and get some sultry Hollywood hottie to play the young Conan. I forget who plays the young Conan in the great opening scene in the Momoa Conan, where he has to keep the egg in his mouth the whole time. I forget the name of the teenager who did that in that opening scene. He did a fantastic job. That's terrible to think that might be the reason, that it's the time and not the character.
Well, I think there are more people, I feel like, who are interested in Conan now than there were 10, 15 years ago. And part of that is because of the fantasy renaissance, and people are like, well, let's look back at, people who are really into fantasy are saying, well, let's look back at some of the things that inspired the fantasy that we're reading, which is one of the reasons Elric people have taken notice of.
Another thing that, according to your logic, could never get made. How could you ever do a fantasy series about an albino drug addict? You couldn't do it.
You would be pretty... They would be changing a couple things. Let's just say that.
They would be changing a couple of things. Oh, man. Now I'm thinking about all these different characters that couldn't be done now. For one reason or all the same reason. But you said you watched maybe 3 or 4 episodes of the Saturday morning live action show. What about the cartoon?
I can't, admittedly, it's true, I can't really judge the cartoon because I watched part of one cartoon and that was like enough. I just like, I can't take this.
Did you watch the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, when I was a kid.
What about the Ralph Bakshi Fire and Ice?
Yeah.
Yes, many times.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Was it on your channel, or did somebody else mention that some comic book company is currently doing comics set in the world of Fire and Ice?
I didn't mention that, but yeah, they do have a comic book, and people have been saying you've got to read this comic, and I
people have been saying it's good.
Yeah, but I don't know because I haven't read it myself.
It's like I mentioned on my channel. Forever and ever, there were you young people. Forever and ever, there was a thing called a video store. You would go in on a Friday night to rent something, and you would bring friends, and it would take 2 hours because you would each read the title of every box that came in boxes. They were called video cassette tapes. They were VHS tapes. And how many Friday nights did Fire and Ice save? How many times did you go to the video store and hope that it was there so that you could watch that?
That must have been how I saw it. We must have been renting that.
Oh, God, it was a ritual.
Because I saw it many times, and we must have rented it at the video store every time, because I didn't own a copy. And so that must have been how we saw it.
The Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings has been altered now.
Has it?
Yeah, because in the original, Saruman is called Araman. And now, if you watch, like for instance, there are tons of clips on YouTube. Somebody's gone in and seamlessly corrected the name. You don't change the names in Tolkien, so he's now Saruman. And it's now that that's there, it's amazing how good some of those scenes are. That I think the cartoon. What is the actual cartoon? Is it Return of the King?
Well, it was Lord of the Rings. Are you talking about the Baskin one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Lord of the Rings, and it was the first, half of Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, it wasn't the whole story.
It wasn't the whole story, and they were going to make a sequel to it to complete it, but they never did.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. And scenes from that hold up well. They really do.
Well, when I was a kid, this was long before they made a real Lord of the Rings live-action movie. That was the serious Lord of the Rings, because there was the the Hobbit cartoon.
Oh, right, the little Hobbit cartoon.
And then there was a Return of the King cartoon.
Oh, right, there was. That I'm mixing the two up. I'm mixing the Return of the King cartoon and the Bakshi Lord of the Rings. I'm mixing up.
Right, but the Bakshi Lord of the Rings was like the first half of Lord of the Rings, and that was the serious Lord of the Rings when I was a kid. That was the closest thing that we could imagine that they would make as a film. Because we couldn't imagine them making it as a live action, because how would you do that?
Yeah, there's no way.
It was impossible. Yeah.
The Return of the King cartoon is better than the Peter Jackson Return of the King in one way only. Jackson doesn't give us the scene where the Lord of the Nazgul has broken the door of Minas Tirith and Gandalf is alone facing him on Shadowfax. And says a reprise of his line with the Balrog says, "You cannot pass, you cannot enter here." He's not afraid. He's not beaten. Peter Jackson gives us a scene where they confront each other, and the Lord of the Nazgul easily defeats Gandalf and is about to kill him when the Ride of the Rohirrim starts. Whereas in the cartoon of Return of the King, we get that scene. It's a wonderful scene. I don't know why. I don't know why Peter Jackson did that. I'll never understand it. If only because that's the scene in Tolkien where we get the word Dwimmer Lake. Gandalf refers to the Lord of the Nazgul as "you foul Dwimmer Lake." Yeah. I would like to see Ian McKellen say that word. But
it'll never happen.
No, not now. No, I kept hoping that scene had been filmed that way, but when the extended version came out, it's just Gandalf getting really beaten. He's completely helpless if it hadn't been for the Rohirrim. I know what's on Jackson's mind. He's thinking, I want there to be I want something to be saved by the Rohirrim. I want something major to be saved. I want something majorly bad to be about to happen when they stop it. But still, hasn't Gandalf earned the right to be unbeatable?
You would think.
So Michael K. Vaughan is here. You're staying here for, what, a month?
Yeah, I'm not going home. I'm just staying here from now on.
So all of the Vaughan Manor videos will be here.
Yeah, this week, this is where the videos will be coming.
We'll be looking for books. Maybe do some touristy things.
Touristy things. I've never been to Boston, so
be a lot of fun. The team up that BookTube was dreaming of is finally happening. It's actually just the bean.
It's the only reason. Hey there, little one. Hey, little friend.
She's getting sleepy. It's later than usual to make videos, but I wanted to make a video tonight just so you would all know why the flow of videos from Vaughan Manor has stopped.
Yeah, it's been cut off.
What's it going to have a guest? If it's not Micah or David Murphy, it's now Michael K. Vaughan.
They'll let anybody into this place.
Let anybody in. Who knows if we don't do a video about BookTube? Wouldn't that be fun?
Could happen.
Because it's the strangest thing in the world.
It is.
I mean, for either one of us to have channels that people watch, it's the strangest thing in the world.
Yeah, I don't know why anybody watches my channel.
I've said for years. I don't know. You told me earlier tonight. Both of us had the same thought, which is that maybe 10, maybe 20 people, and I'll know who they are. They're the ones who will watch,
right,
and no one else. So, all the stories we could tell. You probably had awful off-camera run-ins with Aaron Facer and James Holder. They're pure acid. It's impossible. They're going to take a swipe at you no matter what. These horrible poison people. That Aaron Facer. Don't want to run afoul of him. Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. We're not gonna wrap this up. We're gonna talk for an hour or more about Conan and a bunch of other stuff. But we will make other videos. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what we do. That's what we do.
That's what we do. So it's me, it's Michael K. Vaughn, and it's the Bean. We're all here for the duration. So we'll wrap this up now, and we'll be back.
See you guys.